Welcome back, Autobots, Decepticons, and everything in between to Tales of Production, the series where I take a look at the production of the various Transformers movies and tell you some interesting stories that went down. Today's is going to be about the Bumblebee movie, not the one that we ended up getting, but the version that we almost did. The version that was intended to be a prequel to the 5 previous Michael Bay Transformers films before being revamped into the version we got, after Hasbro and Paramount decided to reboot the Transformers film franchise. So without further ado, let's take a look at what the original Bumblebee movie would have looked like. And well, to do this, we're going to need to take a trip all the way back to the year of 2015 to understand how the movie came to be, right after a quick word from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the game, Raid Shadow Legends is an awesome turn-based RPG where you collect these guys called champions and use them to battle other players from around the world. Raid is action-packed, from deadly bosses that hide out in dungeons to high-stake PvP battles. Raid always has a fight waiting for you at any given moment. The game is available on mobile and PC, and it gets constantly updated. To kick off the new year, Raid has released a new update that's jam-packed with a bunch of new features, such as a new season of the Forge Pass for all your artificers, and the Plarium Points program where you can earn in-game goodies including a legendary champion. Right now, Raid's got something extra special happening. In preparation for Raid's 4th anniversary, this month sees the launch of the humongous 4th anniversary Titan event. This new type of event will see you earning anniversary points by competing in special themed events. This month also sees the release of a new legendary champion, based off of MMA and pro wrestling legend Ronda Rousey. And you can get Ronda for free right now whether you're a new or long-time player. And all you have to do to get her is to play Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th. And if you use the special promo code RAIDRONDA, you can get a bunch of helpful stuff. So what are you waiting for? Raid Shadow Legends is waiting just for you, and if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan the QR code here on screen, and you will get some unique bonuses worth $35. We're talking about a free epic champion Jolton, 100,000 silver, 50 gems, and 2 epic skill tomes. All this treasure will be available for the next 30 days for new players only. And once you're in the game, come find me under the name Theorytron. If you're fast enough, you'll be able to join my clan. And with that said, let's get back to the video. You see, at this time, Marvel Cinematic Universe was picking up some serious steam, and the executives at Paramount noticed this and wanted a piece of that pie for themselves. And were like, hey, the last 2 films made over $1 billion, so why not? And so on March 27, 2015, Paramount Pictures negotiated with Akiva Goldsman, hiring him to create a writer's room with the intention of building a cinematic universe roadmap for the Transformers films. Over the next few months, Goldsman went on to hire a number of writers to help him flesh out the universe, and on October 3, 2015, we would learn from Stephen Davis, the president of Allspark Pictures, that over the course of 3 months the writers have plotted out the next 10 years of Transformers films, noting that the writing team has come up with the film concepts for Transformers 5, 6, 7, and 8. Eventually, February 12, 2016 would roll around, and on this day Hasbro would reveal the projected release dates for Transformers 5, 6, and 7 at Toy Fair 2016. They would also mention that Transformers 6 would be a spin-off focusing on everyone's favorite yellow Autobot, Bumblebee, with June 8, 2018 being the day we would get to see his adventure unfold. And roughly another 4 months later, on June 21, 2016, Hasbro would unveil the Transformers Cinematic Universe at the Jefferies 2016 Consumer Conference, revealing the Transformers 6 and 7 logos to the public. The hype was definitely real, and when 2017 rolled around, fans got some really exciting news. For the first time, a new director would be at the helm of a live-action Transformers movie. And on March 2nd, 2017, we would learn that Travis Knight would be appointed director for Transformers 6. And he will be a very important reason as to why the Bumblebee movie switched from a prequel to a reboot. Now, Knight was a very interesting choice for the role since he never directed a live-action film before, with his background being solely in stop-motion films. However, something fans noticed, and likely the producers at Paramount, was that each film that Knight had worked on was solely character and story-driven, which is something the Transformers Cinematic Universe would need if they wanted to compete with the MCU. Eventually, when Transformers The Last Knight made its theatrical release on June 21, 2017, On its first day, the film grossed a franchise low $15.7 million, and it ended up having an opening weekend of $44.7 million, the lowest debut of the franchise by $25 million, and the lowest since the first film's $70.5 million. The film's 5-day gross of $68.5 million was also lower than every other 3-day opening for the previous 4 films. Clearly, something wasn't working with this film, and Paramount knew it, especially after the film would go on to make the studio lose over $100 million. So it's no wonder why on July 31st, 2017, the day Paramount began production for Bumblebee, it would be revealed that the movie would be pushed back, with its new release date being December 21st, 2018. Though it's not confirmed if the last night's box office numbers made Paramount push back the film, it's highly likely that it was, since on February 16th, 2018, Hasbro would reveal some very unfortunate news that hit fans of the Transformers live-action movies pretty hard. At Hasbro's investor preview at Toy Fair 2018, Hasbro stated that a new team at Paramount would reset the Transformers live-action movie series following the release of the Bumblebee movie. We would also learn that Hasbro and Paramount removed Transformers 7 from their release schedule, thus putting an official end to the Transformers cinematic universe and all the potential that its 10-year roadmap could have panned out to be. Furthermore, at this preview, we would learn that Paramount and Hasbro had come to a new agreement. That being that Hasbro would now have greater control of the movies, with Hasbro's AllSpark Pictures and AllSpark Animation now playing an active role alongside Paramount. Later in the year, a test screening for the Bumblebee movie would take place, and on May 2nd, Travis Knight would go on record saying that several tweaks are taking place based on the feedback he received from the screening. And we would later learn that several reshoots would take place in June and in October. And here is where I believe the film transformed from a prequel to a reboot. Since thanks to Optimus Prowl, a user on TFW 2005 who was able to attend a test screening for the Bumblebee movie, was kindly able to share what he saw and compare it to the final version that we got in theaters. According to him, the initial test screenings had more scenes connecting it to the previous Michael Bay movies. However, those scenes were dropped in order to create the pre-boot movie that we received as the final product. So without further ado, here's how the prequel version of the Bumblebee movie would have played out. The film's original cut did not include any scenes set on Cybertron, opening instead with a scene of Bumblebee already on Earth, fleeing from Sector 7 with his Jeep alternate mode, thereby preserving continuity with The Last Knight. In the original opening, Bumblebee laments that humans are now hunting him down despite him being sent to protect them, and comes to the embittered conclusion that mankind isn't worth fighting for. This sets up the character arc Bumblebee is intended to go under in the film, learning through his friendship with Charlie that not all humans are alike, and that there is good in them after all, culminating in his decision to fight Shatter and Dropkick in order to save Earth from a Decepticon invasion, after he regains his memory in the film's final act. However, this arc becomes diluted in the finished film, since Bumblebee does not experience this loss of faith in the first place. Another thing to note is that in the original opening, Sector 7 was already hunting down B. However, the scene was reshot to have Bumblebee's escape pod crash land near Jack Burns' Sector 7 squad, who are now in the woods because of a training exercise. Another thing that was changed was Burns' personality. In the test screening, he was depicted as a far grimmier character, with him being xenophobic towards Cybertronians due to him losing someone close to him in a prior Transformers attack. Due to the reshoots, Burns' dialogue was redone, removing everything about the person he lost and his xenophobia towards Transformers in order to make him a more comedic character. However, remnants of his original personality still appear in the final film. Furthermore, the majority of Burns' and Powell's dialogue was reshot to remove Sector 7's prior knowledge of Transformers. To our knowledge, everything from here played out the same way as it did in the final cut, until the scene where Shatter and Dropkick kill Cliffjumper. In the test screening, Cliffjumper was not part of the scene in which Shatter and Dropkick detect Bumblebee on Earth. Instead, Shatter and Dropkick still appear on the planet, but this time they were searching for Megatron and Optimus Prime. From here, everything else would play out the same way as the final cut until the scene where Bumblebee and Charlie are in the forest. The flashback scene of Prime fighting the Decepticons on Cybertron after B sees his hologram was not present in the test screening. The screening only had Prime's message, in addition to him having a G1-ified look, likely the exact same one seen in the final cut. From here, everything would play out the same as the final cut. until the scene where Bumblebee wrecks the house. Originally, when he stuck his finger in the electric socket, his energon radiation would have brought the house's electronics to life, necessitating a slapstick fight sequence in which Bumblebee, Charlie, and Memo had to unplug the hostile Transformers in order to deactivate them. Martin Short's voice work would have likely featured in this scene, presumably as the voice of at least one of the mutations. However, that audio has never seen the light of day. Now, due to this scene being deleted, the final cut of the film features an unusually high number of rapid-fire jump cuts to mask the missing footage, including a strange swaying point-of-view shot that originally belonged to the washing machine mutation as it watched Charlie and Memo enter the house. Eagle-eyed viewers would realize that the house's television is gone from its usual spot, and the washing machine for no apparent reason is sitting in the middle of the family carpet. Another remnant of this sequence surfaces when Sally Watson asks why the television cord was cut. Now from here everything would be the same as the final cut until the scene where Bumblebee joins Optimus Prime on the Golden Gate Bridge. In the original cut, this truck was not meant to be Optimus, but instead was just a truck that looked like Optimus Prime that was intended to be an Easter egg, thus keeping continuity with the 2007 movie. This would be the last time we would see Bumblebee in this version of the film, since the post-credits scene where he meets up with Optimus at the end was not present. In addition to the post-credits scene of Charlie finishing her and her father's car repair project, instead a new post-credits scene would have taken their place. The test screening of the film featured a post-credits scene with Jack Burns, Seymour Simmons, and General Whalen discussing that the Autobots can never learn of NBE-1. It would then cut to Megatron frozen in the ice as per the 2007 movie. However, it has been reported that Megs was redesigned to have a more Generation 1 styled appearance. The extent of this redesign has been debated among fans for years. However, according to Optimus Prowl, Megatron's design had more likeness to the Generation 1 Megatron design, with it even having a fusion cannon. However, it had the movie Megatron face and teeth inside the iconic bucket-shaped helmet. He would go on to say that this design was very much in line with the Optimus Prime redesign. Now, the closest thing we have on record for what Megatron's redesign could have looked like is the 2019 Turbo Changers toy for Megatron, and Yolo Park's Bumblebee movie Megatron model kit silhouette. Hopefully, Megatron will appear in the upcoming Transformers Rise of the Beast movie, so we can finally see what his rebooted continuity design will finally look like. And yeah, that's basically how the original version of the Bumblebee movie would have played out. And personally, I believe the version that we ended up getting was leaps and bounds better than this one. Now, a question that you all likely have, and a question that led me to research and create this video, is what led to all these changes being made? And well, it was a multitude of factors. As we know, Hasbro and Paramount were not confident in this film at all after the financial failure that was The Last Knight. This is evident since Hasbro stated that a new team at Paramount would reset the Transformers live-action movie series following the release of Bumblebee, basically making the Bumblebee movie a throwaway film since whatever story it planned to tell wouldn't matter since the franchise was going to be reset. And because of this decision, Transformers 7 was scrapped, thus forever leaving The Last Knight's ending on a cliffhanger. And the majority of the work that the writers did to script out the future of the film franchise until 2025 was thrown away. They would have likely scrapped the Bumblebee movie as well if it wasn't as far into production as it was. And with all this doom and gloom surrounding the film franchise's future, one man saw that he had an opportunity to turn things around and implement his vision for what he wanted this movie to truly be. That man was director Travis Knight. Remember earlier how I said that he will be a very important reason as to why the Bumblebee movie switched from a prequel to a reboot? Well, in 2019, Travis Knight had an interview with MoviePhone discussing the Bumblebee movie. When he was asked what about the mythology the Transformers films had already established. This is the first time Bumblebee has been on Earth, and just one film earlier we saw him killing Nazis in World War II. What was your thinking behind wiping the slate clean? Knight had this to say: "Continuity is very important to me, as in being consistent. And so I did take a good hard look at the films that had been done in the past. And as we were thinking about this movie, I still wanted the movie to be self-contained. I didn't presuppose any familiarity with the films or the franchise. I wanted someone who wouldn't know anything about the Transformers to be able to sit in the theater to watch this movie and have a good time and enjoy the movie, not knowing anything about the Transformers. But that said, it was important to me if we were living within this universe and this mythology that it be consistent. At some point we realized that we were essentially boxing ourselves into a corner, that we were making choices that weren't really in the best interest of the film, if we were trying to kind of sit within the overall mythology of the franchise. Once I talked through some of these things with the producers and with the folks at Paramount, at some point we made the decision that this was the story that we're telling, and we have to talk the best where we can. And if that means we're essentially restarting the franchise, and that means we're rebooting these characters, and that we're taking aspects of the franchise and putting a different prism on it, then that's what we had to do. And ultimately it was a liberating choice because then we weren't cornered into these decisions based on what had come before. We could tell our own story, and that was the aspect of that. And there you have it. Thanks to Travis Knight, the Bumblebee movie was revamped, saving it from the sinking ship that was the Bayverse and allowing it to be the start of a much needed reboot. And as we know, for the first time ever, fans and critics simultaneously loved a Transformers film. A Transformers film! And on top of that, it was even a little bit profitable for Paramount and Hasbro. Though his performance at the box office was definitely hindered due to the bad taste the last night left in everyone's mouth, Paramount and Hasbro knew that this new direction the Bumblebee movie took was the way forward. And thus we now have Rise of the Beast on the way, serving as a direct sequel to the Bumblebee movie. Now, a question that I would like to bring up is when exactly did Travis Knight push for turning the Bumblebee movie into a full-blown reboot? And well, my best guess would be sometime after the test screenings, since that's when Travis Knight went on record to say that several tweaks are taking place based on the feedback he received. And as we know, Knight would later go on to conduct reshoots in June and in October. Now, the last and final thing that I want to cover is some concept art that was made during the pre-production of the Bumblebee movie. First off, we have this one depicting Bumblebee being chased by 2 helicopters in Vietnam. And as we can see, he still has his World War II design. This could mean that a flashback scene showcasing Bumblebee throughout the years until 1987 could have been planned for the film at some point before being scrapped. Another piece of concept art that was created during pre-production was this one of Bumblebee's hammer. According to the artist of this concept, Johncena, he says that he was asked to do an alternative version of Bumblebee's hammer from The Last Night. The team liked the idea that the Autobot and VW logos would leave an imprint, however the hammer concept would end up being scrapped. Now, these next pieces of concept art I have saved for last since in my opinion they are the most fascinating. And to my knowledge, these are some of the earliest pieces of concept art for this film floating around the web. I tried to get more information on these concepts by getting in contact with its creator Rob Wiggins, however at this point in time I haven't heard any word back, so my speculations on these concepts will have to do. I personally believe that these concepts were mock-ups of what Bumblebee's movie design would have looked like if he had a Volkswagen Bug as his alternate mode. Personally, I don't believe this design works due to how simple the Bug's design is, and when put onto Bumblebee's complex robot mode design, it just doesn't work. I do find it cool that they thought about bringing Bumblebee's over-the-shoulder missile launchers back, which is a weapon he used throughout the original trilogy, and I find it clever that they would have been these boxes that would have been on top of his vehicle mode. Speaking of his vehicle mode, it's definitely an interesting take on what his vehicle mode could have been. However, when you compare this vehicle mode design to the one we got in the Bumblebee movie, I personally think the Bumblebee movie one is better. Another thing I found interesting with this design is that he has the horns from the G1 cartoon. And I'm glad this did not carry over to the final design since I think the Bayverse inspired horns work a lot better. I'm also glad that all this armor going around the head did not carry over as well, since it just makes the design a lot more busy. However, something I'm glad did carry over is the overall torso design, with the hood going down his torso and the front bumper and fenders becoming the chest. Overall, this is a very fascinating case study of what Bumblebee could have looked like, and it makes me wonder how far this design got into production, since in this video of Travis Knight introducing himself the day production started for the Bumblebee movie, we can see a Bumblebee statue to his left that's based off of the concept art design. However, its color palette looks a heck of a lot better. Now, this concept art would be recreated as a piece of control art for Hasbro's licensing sourcebook Europe Autumn 2018. It's way more faithful to the concept art colors and appears to be done in the same style as a lot of the control art produced for Transformers The Last Night. Oddly enough, the head design is different, appearing to be borrowed from Bumblebee's Transformers The Last Night control art model. Now, the last and final thing I want to cover is when this design for Bumblebee was dropped. And well, it was probably scrapped sometime after Travis Knight was appointed director. since he has said many times that he wanted to redesign the Transformers to make them more faithful to how they looked in the G1 cartoon, since that was the show that he grew up with. And when you take this into account, this explains why a lot of Bumblebee's concept art started out in the Bayverse aesthetic, and over time became simpler and simpler until we got a nice Generation 1-ified version of the design. And just like that, now you know what the original version of the Bumblebee movie would have looked like. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have not already, check out the Tales of Production playlist for some more awesome stories. But before I go, I want to say thank you to all my Patreons and channel members for supporting the channel. You guys are the reason why Theorymus has continued to get bigger and better, so a big fat thank you to all of you. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like or rating because it does help the channel a lot. With that said, hit that outro.